Welcome to the Autosportradio.com 2018 show. I'm your host, Don Kay. We are live from McGillivray Speedway at 30th and High School in the beautiful town of Speedway. Tonight's show is presented by Honda and Honda HPD, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Verizon IndyCar Series, and SVRA. How many went out to the SVRA program this weekend? Great show. Great show. And those pre-war cars, good grief, they were spectacular. In fact, there was one guy, an older fella actually, probably drove the car when he was a kid, who had the old 1920 driving suit and helmet on, went the whole 9 yards. It was great. Had a really good time, and Matt Brabham put on a heck of a driving show actually. He got down to about 10th, I think, and ended up winning the race, pulled back up and win the race. The next event is this weekend from Road America, the Kohler Grand Prix at Road America at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. The Indy Lights will be there. Finally, they're coming out of retirement, going back to work. And the practice and qualifying will be available on racecontrol.indycar.com. You can watch it all and see what's going on. And I think the qualifying will be retelecast on NBC Sports Network Saturday at 6:30, I believe it is. But I posted it on my website. If you go to autosportradio.com, it's there under Racing News. Next week, I have a young lady coming that has never been here, actually. She is the Senior National Media Manager for IndyCar. Her name is Kate Guerrera. She will be here, and I'm working on somebody that I want desperately. He's in town, so I want to get him before he disappears again. Also, I want to remind you, your favorite doctor's appointment, of course, is a dentist. Take the pressure off, go to a good one. We go there, and it's spectacular. The Indy Dental Group, Dr. Jack Miller and his wife, Dr. Liz Lewis, have a phenomenal practice. Make an appointment. Call them at 317-846-6125. And if you haven't joined the IndyCar Nation, it's time to join the official fan community of IndyCar. And you can win amazing experiences and VIP benefits at every race. Go to IndyCarNation.com for more information and use the promo code DonK15. You'll get 15% discount on a champion or legend membership. It's worth it. They do a lot of neat stuff, and you get to do a lot of things while you're there. I want to remind you that if you're going to the Pocono race, the Tricky Triangle, it'll be over 300 cars are expected to take part in the 2018 Vintage Celebration at Pocono Raceway, promoted and managed by Classic Racing Times, this coming August, and several divisions that will include historic Indy and stock cars in a 2.5-mile oval, as well as smaller car divisions on a 5th-mile oval in the front straight. That's August 17th, 18th, and 19th. If you're going out there, check it out. It's great. My first guest is a young man that I hound from time to time when he's here. People enjoy him. I've been asked a number of times, when are you going to get him back? Well, here he's here. He is the owner of the Steinbrenner Andretti car driven by Colton Herta, and as hot as they can get. They won the Freedom 100, great organization, and he's a very interesting young man. Please welcome George Michael Steinbrenner.
Thank you, Don. Thanks for having me again.
You know, it never ceases to amaze me. You're from a huge baseball family, and you're in racing. What did your grandfather say when you said, I'm going to go racing? Good for you.
Well, my grandfather wasn't around when I really fell in love with racing. He saw the beginnings of it. He loved racing. I mean, he loved horse racing. One of the things,
big time.
One of the things he always wanted was to win the Kentucky Derby. And so racing of any kind, he understood. And my father was, since he was a little boy, one of his heroes was Jim Clark. So he was always big into racing and had an NHRA program for a few years in the early 2000s. So the family, they understood it, at least racing of a different kind, or car racing as my father did. And they've been really supportive, and they can see how passionate I am about it and how much I want it. So they've been really supportive, and it certainly helps to have your family behind you.
I talked to your grandfather one day at the racetrack in Oldsmar that he was owner of. And I was surprised what he knew about IndyCar racing in the Indianapolis 500. That surprised me. I didn't think he did, but boy, he did know.
He'd been to the Speedway a couple of times over the course of his life. I mean, growing up in Cleveland and going to school at Culver, not too far away from here, he'd been exposed to it, and so he'd come to the Speedway a couple times. He actually did a one-off partnership with Pat Patrick a long time ago for the Indy 500. So it's something that he understood and that he'd been around, and it certainly helped in the breeding of my love for IndyCar.
Now, you and Colton, you mentioned the last time that you were here that when the two of you get together, you play a lot of video games together. Because you're fairly close. I mean, you're a couple of years older than he is, but you guys seem to hit it off really, really well. And I read in Racer Magazine, well, there's a lot of teams taking a look at him. But I got to think he's a loyal guy and probably will stick along, and I'm sure you want to stick with him because he's got the talent. I don't think there's any question about that.
Well, certainly. To your first point, we are really close. We've known each other for 5-6 years, and I've known him since he was in Skip Barber when he was 12, and I didn't even have a driver's license yet. So yeah, we get along quite well. And obviously, he's someone who's been in Indy Lights for a season and a half and has shown the sparks of brilliance that he has and the talent that he has. It's natural that he's going to be a hot commodity in the IndyCar paddock. So we're doing what we can to move up to IndyCar ourselves, and if we can make it work, the timelines properly, then obviously we'd put Colton in the car because I don't think there's really anyone out there other than maybe Santi. He's pretty quick.
He doesn't count, does he?
Of course he does.
Oh, okay.
He's in Lights too.
Yeah. Now, I didn't see you during the race, but once again, the Freedom 100 proved to be a very close and highly competitive race, and a lot of people were commenting there's only 8 or 9 cars. I think they started out would have had 9 and one of them crashed, so it was down to 8. But all 8 cars were together the whole race. It was really, again, a phenomenal race.
It really was, and it was a really clean race. A lot of side-by-side, almost 4 turns of side-by-side action sometimes, and it was really close. The guys gave each other room, and they made it exciting all the way down to the end. And as that race usually works out, it's always a nail-biter and very stressful when you're on the timing stand.
What do you do during the race? Do you just sit on the stand and watch, or have you got something you talk to him? What do you do?
Usually I watch nervously, listen to Colton on the radio, spotters, engineer, fiddle with my hands nervously, something to just kind of hope for a clean race and a productive race, and kind of a lot of things going through my head all at once.
Well, fortunately, I can't think of any time this year, or even last year for that matter, that he put the car back in the truck in pieces. He's a good, clean driver. He uses his head. He sees what's going on, which I assume, the apple doesn't usually fall that far from the tree, and his dad was quite the same. Does his dad, Brian, hang around and watch the race, or is he off because he's nervous?
He's always around. Obviously, it's his son. He tries not to play the racing dad role. He just wants to be dad. He's generally very to the side, especially during sessions. He'll watch from an IndyCar timing stand a couple spots away. But of course, during the Freedom 100, he was pacing back and forth as I was, very nervously. And afterward, he was the first person I went up to when we were sure he crossed the finish line at first. It took a few seconds, but so having Brian around obviously is great. He's been around for a long time and had massive success as a driver and as an owner. So as someone to learn from and to someone to have around as your driver's father, it certainly helps, and it's definitely great for both Colton and myself.
Now, at the press conference following his win, he was asked, or in fact, I think you were asked first, or not, he was, and said, are you planning now that next year you'll move up? And he kind of hemmed and hawed, as you did. And then somebody brought up the fact that if you win the series, and he said, yeah, if we win the series, we're moving. And you said, oh, okay.
Well, of course, there's a $1 million grant from Mazda if you win the Indy Lights Championship, and that's a lot of money in the world of motor racing. So definitely winning the championship would definitely make things a little less complicated. But we can't really we'd be foolish if we sort of wrote that off as an inevitability. The Indy Lights field is only 8 deep, but it's 8 deep, so we have to be a little cautious optimism. But of course, winning the championship would definitely make things less complicated.
What is it you do on a day-to-day basis when there's nothing going on at the track, like this past weekend, and you run at Road America and you're off another week? Are you part of the sponsor seeker?
That is my primary job from Monday to Thursday of of race weekends, and Sunday to Sunday of non-race weekends. It's all about money raising, especially if we wanted to make the jump to IndyCar next season. We want to do it the right way, so we want to raise good partnerships, find the right money, and people who really want to be involved in IndyCar and aren't just writing checks and not even showing up. We like people who show up. We like to get people involved in the sport, and that'll grow better partnerships, stronger bonds with all the partner webbing. So that's my job on a daily basis, is to make our partnership web stronger each day.
Are you finding it's easier when you approach somebody and tell them what you're looking for? They know and understand what IndyCar is and what the Mazda Road to Indy program is feeding into them. I think there was, 23 or 24 graduates of the Mazda Road to Indy partnership or series were in the 500 field this year. So obviously it's working. Are you finding doors open a little bit easier?
Well, a development series is always a harder sell than the big cars. The checks are easier to write, but it still can be a little difficult. It certainly helps when someone knows. It's definitely easier around the Indianapolis area to sell the Indy 500, IndyCar, Indy Lights, because it's known. You don't have to sit down and have it explained to someone. So to have local partners that know IndyCar and Indy Lights are into Indy Lights, and they're into the development of drivers who will be in IndyCar, those are the easiest to get on quicker, because you don't have to explain open wheel racing, the Indy 500, IndyCar, Indy Lights. It's all sort of just part of it, and then you can get down to the nitty gritty.
Now, as I mentioned when we started this, your family has been involved in baseball for years. When you get a chance, do you get any of the Yankee games?
I do. I'll generally spend anywhere from a month to 2 months a year up in New York, generally in that late September, October time after the IndyCar season. I'll jump up every once in a while for a day or two during the season. So I try to spend as much time as I can around it, because I did grow up around it as I did with IndyCar racing. Those are my two loves in life. So to be around each as much as I can is something I really try to do.
It's kind of interesting that you have come on, and fortunately for you, I didn't realize you've been living here for a couple of years before you and Colton hooked up. And I didn't know that. You were chasing around the rally cars or whatever it was you were doing, and I didn't know you were here. Which is probably lucky for you, but now I do, so now you got a problem. I call you from time to time. But I think, the growth and the way that you and Colton and Andretti are working, to me, is the way. You're doing it right, you're taking it slow, if you win the championship, you get $1 million, but you're only guaranteed 3 races, one of which is the 500, of course. So you need to fill in the other races with a lot more than $1 million to do it. And taking your time and getting the right partner is obviously the thing. Now, maybe you should send one of you or Colton or both and go talk to your pastor. That seemed to work for Zach pretty well.
It did. And that was a 1 in a million thing, and it couldn't have happened to a better guy. And from my experiences with Group 1001, a better company, a better organization. So that was a cool thing that got put together, and I'm glad to see Zach in an IndyCar.
Now it's your turn.
That's what we're working toward.
And I haven't talked a lot with Colton, but I've talked to him several times. And he, for a kid that's, I think, 19 years old, he's pretty grown up, pretty got his head on straight. He understands what he's doing and where he wants to go and how he wants to get there. And I think the two of you are a perfect match, really. I mean, that's just my opinion, but there's probably about 25,000 people that would agree with me.
Thank you. I certainly think so. We get along well, and certainly helps that we're not contentious with each other in any way. We get a lot of the same things, we understand a lot of the same things, and we have fun together, which is pretty cool.
And you play video games together. Who wins?
Well, depends on what game we're playing. A lot of times we'll play racing games and we'll trade off, kind of like an endurance racing thing. So Colton can't really rub it in my face when he inevitably whoops my butt. But
is he, or are you guys, I should say, looking at him running in some of the endurance races and some of the other sports car events? Has he got any interest in that, or does he want to stick with what you're doing and succeed?
Well, he currently is a BMW reserve driver in the IMSA program. So that avenue has been explored. He's been a BMW test junior driver for a couple of years now. So it's always there, especially with these young drivers, to get into that sort of opening section of the sports car community. And so that avenue is always open. There are a lot of non-conflict races, so it's certainly a possibility. But as of right now, it's Indy Lights, and he does drive, and he does moonlight as a reserve driver for the BMW program, which he enjoys doing. It's certainly a great learning experience.
Oh, yeah.
Being in the manufacturer's tent and learning from manufacturer engineers and drivers who've been doing it for a long time. So it's certainly something that I enjoy him doing, and he enjoys doing as well.
What would it be like the first time that you walk out on the grid for the 103rd, 104th Indianapolis 500, and you say 375,000 people? When you've been there practicing and so forth, there's people there, but suddenly when you walk out and there's that many people, the track gets awfully small. But that's got to be something to look forward to. And as an owner, I've done it as a crew member, and I wasn't a mechanic. I cleaned the car, I pushed the car, I did the important stuff, vacuumed the stuff out when it got sand in it and so forth. But to go there as an owner and see what happened, that's got to be something I would be dreaming about if I were you, and you probably do, come to think of it.
I do dream about it. It's the goal. The inevitable goal is to not only compete in the Indy 500, but to win it. So, I mean, the surreality that was winning the Freedom 100, kissing the bricks, being there in Victory Lane, taking pictures in Victory Lane, the same places that Alex Rossi, Emerson Fittipaldi, Mario Andretti. It's certainly something that I took a while to really digest, and I can only imagine what the 500 will be, because I did it with 400 fewer miles, and it was certainly something special.
Would you like to see him put in a pit stop?
In Indy Lights?
Yeah.
Not sure, because in the current format, it's certainly not something you don't want to see your car roll down pit lane in the middle of the race. So there would have to be a lot of changes for that to happen. It would mean having to have longer races, and certainly that's a possibility. But as of right now, I'm a fan of the current format. It shows spotlights on the driver. You don't lose or gain time in the pit lane. So I think it puts the spotlight on the driver, which is what I believe personally to be the point of a development program.
And it has to give you and Colton confidence, because Andretti puts a car out in a track that can win. And obviously it does, because you have won a couple of times already this year.
They do, and they put cars out that can win in essentially everything that they do. So that was obviously a a big reason that we joined up with them was not only for their success in Indy Lights, but their success in IndyCar and Rallycross, their Formula E venture, and now in V8 Supercars in Australia. We thought it would be a very good place to learn, not just the IndyCar or Indy Lights side, but motorsport as a whole.
I can't figure out how Michael Andretti does it all. He's missed, that I'm aware of, one IndyCar race because they raced whatever that series was here at IRP. He didn't go to the IndyCar race. He was here. Then he's in Europe with Formula E, and then he's all over the place.
He is. He does. He travels to. He tries to make it to at least one race every year of each series that they run in. So it certainly logs up the miles, and certainly I'm sure it's something he enjoys immensely because he loves being a team owner and he loves competing and he loves winning. So as of right now, I'm only in Indy Lights. Steinbrenner Race is only in Indy Lights, but several decades down the line, I might be in the same boat with different series in different countries all over the world, and I can only imagine how awesome it is to be able to jump on a plane and go to a Formula E race right after racing in Iowa, and then going to a V8 Supercar race in Bathurst. I'm sure those calendar-wise don't match up in that order, but it would certainly be something pretty cool, and it's something that I know Michael enjoys a lot.
Now, in the piece that I picked up and used announcing that you're coming, the question was asked, what would your grandfather say about the success you're having, and does he like Colton and so on and so forth? And your response was he'd probably say, "Pay the man, let's go."
Yeah, he would certainly say that he likes him because he wins. He likes him because he's a good kid, and he represents motorsport the right way, and our brand the right way, and his brand the right way. So I don't think my grandfather would have any problem with him. He might have a problem with my hair, but for the successes of Steinbrenner Racing, I think it's something that we all strive to do as a family. So it's something that we expect from ourselves. So I think I might have gotten I'm proud of you, a nice pat on the back, but really no surprises.
Well, one thing for sure, when he said if he would have said pay the man, if I remember right, he signed a contract for a ball player for $200 million. I don't know where in the world he's going to get all that, but I think he's probably still getting checks from somebody. He didn't hesitate to pay those who performed for him because he wanted to win that bad. And starting his own television channel certainly didn't hurt him any there either. So that's, I don't know, the man had the knack for it. And from what I watch and listen to you talk, that I think some of it rubbed off because you're doing it what, in my opinion, is the right way. You're doing it smart. And I don't know what you're paying the guy, whatever he wants, but I think you two will go on, and I suspect you'll try and stay with Andretti Autosport and get your career and be another car for Andretti to enter in the IndyCar Series.
That's what our goal is. We're working toward the IndyCar Series, and Andretti would be our prime destination because we've had the partnership for so many years now, and it's the world we know. So, but it's not a guarantee that we even make it to IndyCar, let alone where we'll be. So we have to keep our minds and options open. But being where it all started would certainly be pretty nice to start my IndyCar career and Colton's IndyCar career in a familiar territory.
Does having the name Steinbrenner, is that a problem? Or people say, oh, I read about your grandfather, I heard him talking, or whatever. Is that any kind of anything? I mean, is it harmful? Does it make things easier for you? Or?
It's not harmful in any way. It's hard to avoid questions or recognition because it's not a very common last name in the U.S. So it's not like I'm, for instance, John Henry of the Red Sox. A lot of people have the last name Henry. It's easy to kind of slide under the cracks. But in the opposite vein, it also opens a lot of doors because there's not a lot of people with that last name. So when you reach out with Steinbrenner Racing, it's almost implied what Steinbrenner it is. So it's definitely helpful in the commercial world, trying to sell IndyCar and Indy Lights program. and it just occasionally gets comments at the TSA line, but other than that, it's no problem.
Well, I think your grandfather, and I'm sure your dad as well, are very proud of what you're doing, the way you're doing it, the way you're conducting yourself, the way Colton conducts himself. I've seen a couple of his press conferences, and he's not goofy. He's a smart young man and understands what he's doing and what he represents and who he represents. And I think, I hope I live long enough to see you guys win the 500. I think, the way you're building your team up and getting everything together, it's something that certainly can happen.
I certainly hope so too. That is the ultimate goal, as I said. There's not really much else. I mean, winning the IndyCar Championship would also be ideal. It's another big thing, but the Indy 500 is the Indy 500. There's nothing like it in the world. So to be able to say that we competed in, we won, or anything related to the Indy 500, it would certainly be something special.
Oh, how realistic is an increased car count for the Indy Lights in the near future?
Well, for a car count in Indy Lights, I think it's certainly possible and hopefully inevitable. The Pro Mazda field last year certainly didn't help. But I think there's 24, 25 cars in Pro Mazda this year. Carlin moving his cars up to IndyCar. He has expressed that he would like to get back to Indy Lights, but obviously that first year in IndyCar, you want to get all your eggs in that basket. So it's understandable his move took quite a handful of cars out of the field. So I think. With the Pro Mazda field being better this year, the F2000 field's pretty strong this year as well. And everything that IndyCar and Anderson Promotions are trying to do in Mazda, Cooper Tires, everyone, to try and grow the series. I think it's inevitable that we won't have an 8-car field next year.
How are the tires? Are they good? Do they last for 100 miles without any real serious problems?
Well, you saw that all the cars crossed the finish line with all 4 tires on their car, and nothing broke, nothing serious, and they've been able to finish every race consistently over the past season and a half that we've been in it. So it's a lot to ask of a tire to last for 35, 40 laps, and so it's nice to have that tire. And we haven't had any issues. Nothing's blown up. Nothing's tires haven't fallen off. So it's good. And there's a decent amount of performance decrease, but it's understandable. It makes sense. But it's not drastic. It's fairly consistent, and you don't expect to see anything unexpected. You can kind of understand what's going to happen over the course of the race with the tires.
Have you and or Colton got a favorite track? I mean, is there one that you guys really think fits his style? Obviously, the Freedom 100 and Speedway does now. But
the Speedway, I always answer the Speedway, but it's kind of a cop-out because it's an easy answer. For myself, I love Road America. Thankfully, it's the one we got next. I think for a road course, a 4-mile road course, and in the middle of the wilderness, it's pretty awesome. And the track itself is so cool. It's uniquely fast for a road course. So to see an Indy car roll around that thing, and even an Indy Lights car bowl around that thing, is pretty cool. As for Colton, he always says his favorite track is Red Bull Ring in Austria because he won there twice in F3. So it's an easy answer for him. But as for America, he likes the permanent road course, the Mid-Ohio's Road Americas.
He prefers that to the ovals?
Well, I think he prefers it because it's what he knows best, but he obviously likes the ovals enough because he's shown that he can win on them, and he certainly doesn't complain, and he enjoys himself whenever he's behind a race car.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to come here, and you can go home tonight and say, well, I know I'm going to hear from him again.
Of course. I'd love to be back.
So we'll talk to you, later in the season or at the end of the season, see how things went and how things are moving in your direction to get to IndyCar.
Sounds good. Thanks, Don.
Want to wish you, thank you for being here. George Michael Steinbrenner, the owner of the Colton Herta car. Thanks for being here. And keep an eye on them. They're going to be somebody to deal with. For those of you who might not have heard, and I can't imagine you didn't, but I heard it earlier today, and then it came out in Racer Magazine, that they are currently in the process of building a quarter-mile dirt track in Turn 3 at the Speedway. And I understand there's some guy that's already signed up to drive it, and he's trying to make his mind up. Does he want to be a broadcaster or a race driver? And so far he's doing both, and that's Dylan Welch has already committed. He got a ride for the thing, and also Kyle Larson will be there, assuming Chip will let him go. I mean, it's going to be run on Brickyard weekend, either Thursday or Friday, I think was what I saw, Thursday, I guess. So they're building a track right now. They're putting in concrete walls in the ground. They're not temporary walls, and they're building, as we speak, grandstands for 5,000. So, and currently I'm told that they're only going to run one race, which doesn't make sense. Since not a lot happens at IRP, why not run a couple times here? Makes sense to me, but needless to say, nobody asked me what I thought. My next driver is on his way up. In the meantime, I will mention Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville. You got to come to the country to find out why the best prices are, in fact, in the country at Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville. And you'll also see why he is always rated at the top for customer satisfaction. Take I-69 North to exit 234. 234, it's been changed, and I kept saying 34. And go south 1 mile, and you'll see Sam Pierce on your right. Check it out. It's really something. Wow. You want to see what these guys like about Indy cars? Then you got to take a ride in the Indy Racing Experience 2-seater. You can go online and pick a date when it's available for you, and in the promo box put SJ1, and you get a 50% discount. Or you can call Shonda. The number is 317-243-7171, and make an arrangement, and also mention SJ1, and you get a 50% discount. The Vintage Indy Registry, Driving into Indy Past into the Future, is dedicated to the history and preservation of Indy cars from 1911 to 1997, and the Vintage Indy Registry will be presenting open-wheel icons at the IndyCar weekend at Gateway Motorsports Park in August the 24th and 25th. You got to come out and see the full field of vintage Indy cars on track each day, including the 68 STP Turbine and the Radical 72 Samsonite Parnelli. You can visit VintageIndyRegistry.com and find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. To get tickets, go to GatewayMSP.com. If you're looking for insurance for your home, your car, or your commercial building, you got to go to VP Insurance. They are the best. Mike Pardee will take care of you, and if you have a problem, he's there to help you and get it solved. You can call and make an appointment. Number is 317-248-0070. Get a quote. You'll find you get better coverage for less money. Many of us have done it, and it's absolutely true. It works. So give them a call. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street. 317-248-0070. And if you were out and weathered the heat and went to the vintage car event this past weekend, you see some of the most beautiful cars. And I highly recommend that you go to svra.com and subscribe to Vintage Racing Quarterly. It is an absolute first-class magazine, and it gives you all kinds of stories about the drivers and the cars and who owns them and who's driving them. So subscribe to it. It's well worth the investment in getting one. I get them, and they are spectacular. Some stories on drivers that I knew when I came around are still around, actually, and some of the cars are as well. And there'll be over 300 cars are expected to take part in the 2018 Vintage Celebration at Pocono Raceway, promoted and managed by Classic Racing Times this August, and several divisions that include historic Indy and stock cars on the 2.5-mile Tricky Triangle, as well as smaller car divisions on the 5th mile on the front stretch under the lights. It's August 17th, 18th, and 19th. If you're going out there, you got to go see this. They really have some spectacular cars. Now, joining me is a young man who came all the way from Uruguay to do this. He is in third place in the points in the Indy Lights. He was involved all race long in the Freedom 100 and drove a great race, and he's looking to win the championship. It can happen. You never know. He is a fine young lad, and he has a very close personal friend who walked in the door with him. Did you have to drive him here, or did he get here on his own?
I'm driving
Oh, you drove him?
Chuck. No, he drove because his car, obviously. But I love his car. It's a Corvette 1996. I'm driving it every single day to the shop. I know it's cool because when I'm driving to the street, like people say hi to me, and everyone say like, "No, cool car," you know. It's like things
All right.
up.
We're going to say hi to you, too. Please welcome Santiago Urrutia.
Thank you, guys.
So how's your season going? I mean, you're in third, and I think you missed one or two races you could have easily won. But you're in third place in the points. You're not out of it. What do you think?
I think it's going pretty well, but at the same time, it's tough. We struggling a little bit every weekend we go. I know I win a race in St. Pete, but I win the race because everyone's fun. So I was running around third, and then Colton was second. He crashed, and then Pato was leading, and then he didn't crash, but he spun. So then I win the race, and then in Indy Rocco's race 2, I was good enough to win the race. I think we had the speed and everything, and then I had contact with Colton in the last lap, on the last 2 laps. And then the Freedom, you know how is the Freedom, you can be leading all the race, and then on the last lap it will happen to me, you know, like I stay in the middle of the straight, and then came one in the inside, then another one on the outside, and then Kelly was right behind Colton, and I think he took a little bit of understeer because he was too close to Colton, and then he went a little bit wide, and I was on the outside, so I had a little bit of contact with him. I was lucky that I didn't hit the wall, but I could never get the speed back to pass those guys. I think it was a fun race. So I would say the season is going good. It always can be better.
Excuse me. Your goal, obviously, is to get to the IndyCar at some point. How did you get from Uruguay to here to race cars? I mean, I know you were in Europe, you raced in Europe quite a bit.
Yeah.
But what got you started in racing in the first place? You didn't want to work at McDonald's, or you didn't have any, so you didn't have a choice?
Well, the passion, it came from my family, like from my granddad, and then from my dad also. He used to race just for fun in Uruguay, in like dirt trucks. And then, I got the opportunity when I raced the karting World Cup in 2010. Then I have a contract to race in Europe. I left my house when I was 14 years old, and I went through Europe to live alone, like without my family, without speaking Italian, without speaking English. It was tough at the beginning because I was missing my family, obviously, and my country, and I was only 14 years old. You know, I was such a kid, you know. And then, when I was there in Europe and I was missing my family and my house, I was doing that because it was my passion, and this is what I want for the rest of my life, you know. So I have those difficult moments, but then when I have good moments too, you know, I always forget those bad moments. And the time to come in America, it was back in 2014, when I see that I was struggling a little bit in Europe with the sponsors and those things, and I always know about the Master Road to Indy, the program that they have. So I say probably it's the right time to move to United States and race in Pro Master, and then I came in 2016 for a full season in Pro Master.
It's interesting how, in the racing world, did you have a goal you think someday I want to go in Formula One? Did that cross your mind, or were you interested more in coming here and running the 500?
Honestly, when I was a kid, like definitely when I started racing, I was just watching Formula One. But then when I was racing in Europe, and then I started to understand a little bit more about motorsport. Like right now, I don't even watch Formula One anymore because I don't like it. Like it's just 2 cars or 3 cars that can win, you know. And in IndyCar, out of, I don't know how many cars are racing right now, but out of 20 cars, they can win. You know which car is gonna win. So, and then like my mind completely changed when I be in 2015 for the first time in an Indy 500. I say this is crazy. Like I want to be here. I want to race. Like I never seen anything before. Like, cause my country is like all about soccer. We don't have like a professional motorsport. People goes crazy right now. Is the FIFA World Cup they're playing. So imagine that when Uruguay is playing, all the schools in Uruguay, like the child doesn't go to school because the schools are closed. Like people doesn't go to work and anything. So the biggest thing that I was before the Indy 500, it was just when Uruguay plays in soccer in Uruguay, it's a big thing, like a big event. But then when I came here, I say nothing compares to Indy 500. Like this is big. So my mind changed, and right now the only thing I want is just get to IndyCar and get to Indy 500.
Are you working? I read where you were close, I think, this year to possibly doing something in IndyCar, but it didn't quite work out. So you're still running Indy Lights, which I think is a smart idea, because the cars are very similar. In fact, I've been told by some of the guys that have moved up said the Indy car is easier to drive than the Lights car.
The thing at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're competitive in Indy Lights. It doesn't matter if you win 10 races, 6 races or whatever, or if you made a lot of pole position. I think definitely you need to have talent to get to IndyCar. But right now it's more important the money than the talent. Because I won the championship by rookie in 2015, the Pro Mazda. Then I moved up to Indy Lights, and I lost the championship because the guy that I was fighting the championship, he was running in 5th. Until the last lap, I was champion. That the guy who was running in 4th was his teammate. He let it by, and I lost the championship by 2 points. So I had to do Indy Lights again. I win many races last year. Like I finished 2nd again in championship. So I think everyone in IndyCar knows me, but it's a big example. Like this year, they have Robert Wickens racing in IndyCar. He's a super talented driver. He's super quick. Wherever he goes, he's super quick. Like on the first oval, he finished 2nd. Then he almost put it in pole, or he put it in pole in St. Pete in his first race ever. But what about if Robert Wickens doesn't have the money to get through IndyCar and show the talent that he has, So I think right now, all you have to do after win races and everything is like being smart out of the car to find all the sponsors, like say hi to everyone on the paddock, to the IndyCar's owners, and you never know. I never know when I'm going to get the chance to get to IndyCar. Probably I never had the chance to race, and probably I'm going to have the chance next year. I don't know. But right now I have to focus in the Indy Lights campaign to win the championship and to get that $1 million that's going to move me to IndyCar for like at least 4 races.
Now, of course, Brian Bellardi, whom you drive for, is eyeing IndyCar at some point, maybe next year or the year after. So you're obviously in a good spot there because he knows you and knows your talent, knows what you can do. And that's got to help. Do you have sponsors from Uruguay, or are your sponsors all from here?
Yeah, my big sponsor is Brian Bellardi, but I have a lot of sponsors from Uruguay, definitely. Without them, I wouldn't be racing here. I haven't spoke with Brian about what he's going to do next year. Obviously, I want him to go to IndyCar, so I can probably get a chance to get on race for him next year in IndyCar. He's such a nice person with me and with all the guys that are working on the team. He helped many drivers in Indy Lights, Zach Veach, Gavi Chavez, like a lot of drivers that right now are racing in IndyCar. So he knows me very well because it's my 2nd year in his team. So yeah, if he's going up to IndyCar next year, I'm pretty sure he's gonna give me the chance. But you never know. As I say, we have to focus on win the championship this year.
Do the sports people in Uruguay follow you? I mean, do they report on what you're doing and how well you're doing? Do they fit you in between the soccer articles somewhere?
Yeah, because we only 3 million people in Uruguay, totally. It's a really small country. And we don't have when somebody success outside of soccer, we sell it tennis or whatever. Like all Uruguay follow that, sport. So right now, definitely, I got a lot of support from Uruguay. Like when I go to Uruguay, people recognize me. But definitely, it's a lot easier than here in America because we only 3 million people. But yeah, I mean that's a good thing, obviously, to get sponsors, because when I go to a company, I don't have to explain myself who I am. Like when I go to the meetings, like they know already who I am. I got a lot of followers in social media, which is the most important thing right now for the companies. So yeah, that's obviously a good thing for me.
And the biggest part of this whole deal is you know Chuck.
Oh yeah. I know Chuck's nice from 2016. Yeah, when I moved here. Eliseo Salazar used to be my manager, and then I need a car to drive. He used to have a Jeep, and then I rent his Jeep back on 2016, and right now I got his Corvette. So
Yeah, and you're riding around, all the girls are going, hi.
yeah. Well, I'm single. I need to get a Indiana's girl because I'm every time alone, so I need to get a girlfriend.
You keep riding around town in that. That won't be hard to find, I'm sure. What do your parents say about what you're doing? I know the first time you were here, your dad and your uncle or somebody were with you.
Yeah.
Do they get a chance to get here? I know he's in the farming business or something,
Yeah,
which you really
my-
love and can't wait to get home and work on the farm.
My mom never came to the races because she's a school teacher, so she's every time at work. When she's Uruguay summer in Uruguay is December, January, and February, so she's not working at that time. But I'm not racing, so doesn't make any sense that she came to America. And then my dad, when he has time, that is not a lot of work on the farm, he came over. He came over to the Freedom. He's not gonna come right now to Road America, and I gotta go to Uruguay because I haven't seen my mom for like a month and a half, so
Oh.
she's missing me.
She's missing you,
Yeah.
okay. Do you have a favorite track so far? I mean, obviously you like the Speedway.
Yeah, definitely. I love the Speedway, and I like Mid Ohio. Mid Ohio is one of my favorite. Gateway, the oval is pretty cool. I drove for the first time last year. It's pretty much where I'm quick. It's the places that I like. Places that I can win is the place that I like. So everywhere, probably because I used to hate, for example, St. Pete because I was never good there. But this year I won, so right now I like St. Pete. So if I win races, like I like the tracks.
Do you like the little tiny one that you're going to the next, Newton, Iowa?
Yeah, I like Iowa. I also had a fun race last year. I started 12 and I finished second. I think it's that oval. If you have like the right setup and everything, like you can, as a driver, you can make the difference. You can go on the high lines, like low lines. You gotta be very smart, like working on traffic. Yeah, I like Iowa definitely.
You get around that thing in a hurry.
Yeah.
Growing up, who were your idols? If you started getting interested in racing, who did you want to be like? Who did you idolize as a driver or car owner or team owner?
My idol, everyone's a big fan here, so they probably remember Gonzalo Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Was a driver that it was the only one to get to IndyCar. He only did one race. He raced in Detroit back on 1999 with Penske. He was teammate with Alan Sack Jr., I think. And then he had a crash on free practice at Laguna, and then he died. So he's the big guy, obviously, in Uruguay. So when I was a kid, I was following him. And also a big fan of Ayrton Senna. I never seen his racing, but I've seen every video on YouTube or whatever. So I'm a big fan to the guy or the driver that is just fast, that just can win. I will not say easy, but the guy that has that natural talent. For example, in IndyCar, I like Scott Dixon. I like Will Power. I love those guys that you can get whatever car to drive and then gotta be quick. So those are the drivers that I basically my idols. Yeah.
Would you like to run in Texas?
Yeah.
Would you like the lights cars to go there? I don't understand why they don't, but Nobody consulted me, so
I
I
don't know.
guess they don't care what I think.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably because it's gonna cost a little bit more money for. It's also that's one of the biggest problems right now for the series that we only 7 cars. It's because it's became too expensive. I think. I think the team owners are struggling. Like the drivers are struggling with the money. And the thing is, for like a full budget in Indy Lights, you spend more than $1 million, and then if you win the championship, you only get 1 million. So the way they have to do it, probably it's fine that the championship in Indy Light can cost more than 1 million, but they have to guarantee you that if you win the championship, at least get, I don't know, not only 3 races, get probably 10 races in IndyCar, and then it makes sense because the driver who has the money to pay like full budget in Indy Lights, they prefer to go straight to IndyCar and do 2 or 3 races than race in Indy Lights, and probably they don't win the championship, so they're gonna lose that money. You know what I mean? So that's one of the biggest problems that we have in right now in the series.
Well, one thing you don't have in the series is the lack of competition. I mean, the Freedom 100, all 7 cars were together the whole time. And they swapped, I mean, you had the lead, and then Dalton Collette would come and take the lead, and Colton took the lead. I mean, everybody swapped around. It was really, the people that were there were just knocked down. He said, wow, how come we don't see more of this? I said, I don't know. We should.
The thing is that they changed the engine map for the Freedom. Honestly, I think it was a way better for the fans, because I think we put a really good show for the fans, a really good show for the people, but that's not a real racing. You don't see IndyCar on the Indy 500 run passing like the lead like 4 times in one lap, or like guys going 4 wide to turn 1, turn 3. To the engine map that they put on the Freedom, you can be 4 wide on the outside and turn 1 flat, easy flat. So that's not real racing, you know what I mean? So we talk about it with the drivers and the team owners, and they're gonna change back to the engine map that we used to run normally in the ovals. So right now for Iowa and Gateway, we're gonna go back to the map that we ran last year, and we had really good races too. So I don't see that we're gonna have bad races right now. For sure, we only like 7 cars, but I'm pretty sure we can put a good show too.
Well, they have, and people have commented, and I get a lot of emails saying maybe there's only 7, 8 cars, but they're all together, and you never know. Anybody can win it. It's good close
Yeah.
racing. It's not scattered out where the
Oh,
2
no,
or
yeah,
3 of
that's-
them are a
if
half a
you-
lap behind.
If you see definitely the series that is only 7 cars, but it's super competitive. Like in Indy Road Course, we were like 7 cars in like I think 4/10. So it is super competitive. Definitely, I don't like definitely running with only 7 cars. It make it difficult. Like you cannot make mistakes. Like if you win for example, last year we were like 16 cars or 15 cars. The only thing you have to do to win the championship is just finish on the podiums, because you get big points. Right now, because we only 7 cars, it's not enough to finish on podium. You have to win races. So if you qualify in 3rd, you will say, yeah, okay, I'm 3rd, but I need that extra 2 tenths to win the race, because if I don't win races, I'm not going to win the championship. And right now, you say I'm 21 points behind Colton,
I think
right?
so, something
Yeah,
like that.
so I definitely need to win races. So we working on it. I mean, I have won in Road America before. I had a podium last year, so I hope we can get the big points this weekend.
Do you like that 4-mile road course? You like that? It's got a lot of straights. There's a lot of speed for sure.
Yeah, I like it. It's so bumpy. Every time we go, every year, it's getting worse. It's a big bump out of turn 1, then on the last corner too. But definitely it's one of the best track that we go during the year. Like with the push to pass, I think we can pass people, and yeah, I think I like the track. I mean, it's super fast, and you gotta be smart. If you do just one mistake because you have like a long straight, you're gonna lose a lot. So on qualifying, you gotta do like everything right, and yeah, I like the track definitely.
I don't think that Road America is one of AJ's favorite. Boy, he had a wreck there. Holy Toledo. unbelievable. And the fact that he got out of it, he didn't walk out, he limped out, and has been limping ever since, actually. So it's a place that you got to be careful at, but it's fast. I've said this before. When I was doing my television show in Chicago, I go back in the woods, and there's I don't know what thing it is, but there's a long straight. The cars would come down, and I'd be following a car, and all of a sudden I'd realize, you've been standing here 10 minutes, he hadn't been there. Then I walk all the way back to find out he broke or he crashed or something. So I got to find somebody else and start all over again. But 4 miles is a long way around. It's a long race, and it's got to be. Is it tough on the drivers because there's a lot of long where you can you don't relax, but you can let go. Is that a strenuous track to run on?
Not, how you say, physical. It's not tough. But yeah, the difficult thing is if you do a small mistake, then you're gonna lose the lap. Or for example, in a normal track, if you got a flat spot on the tire, like a little one, that it can happen, or for me happen every time. Like in a normal track, you don't really feel it. You don't really feel the flat spot. But then in Road America, because you're going super fast, then you got like a huge vibrations on the straights, and through the carousel, that you really use the tires. Is a corner that we going like on fifth gear, almost flat. You use a lot the tires. If you got a flat spot, then at the end of the race you can be in trouble. I had that problem last year. Like I broke my tire on the last lap, and I was running fourth, and then I finished last. But yeah, it definitely is very mandatory that you have to be very smart every lap and every corner.
Well, I think teams, IndyCar teams in particular, are taking notice that you have the talent to move. I think you're with a good guy that you might be able to move up with, which would make sense because he knows you, you know him. If you were to move up, that would be, a smart move on his part. Plus, I suspect you may get sponsors from your home country, but he knows a lot of people here that might be able to help him get the program off. I've enjoyed watching you. I thought that the race you drove at the Freedom 100 was outstanding. With the way, and as George said earlier, everybody drove clean. He gave everybody enough room, maybe just enough, but that's all you need is just enough. Yeah. You don't need to get in the whole wide. So it was a great race. You drove a great race, and I appreciate you coming out and getting Chuck's car all wet in the rain. I know he's going to be thinking about that tonight. I hope he wipes it off.
All right. Thank you very much. And yeah, I'm living here in Indy, so whenever you call, give me a call, and I'm going to come over to your show. At least I can outline dinner here on the bar and everything. So yeah, thank you very much, guys, and I appreciate it.
Keep an eye on him. He's going to be there.
Thank you.
They call him Santi. His name is Santiago Urrutia. Next week, as I said, we're going to have a young lady. She's never been here, but she is a senior manager for national coverage for IndyCar. I'm going to find out what she does because I keep accusing her of not doing a whole hell of a lot. So we'll have her here, and I'm working on somebody else who, unfortunately, tonight is at Courtney Force's birthday party. So he couldn't make it this week, but I'm hoping he'll make it next week. So we'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Until next week, Don Kay saying good night. See you then.